There are some things you should just never say in a job interview because it might end the interview for you or end your opportunity. So I'm going to give you 7 of those. The most awful one is the one at the end. So stick around for that one and let's get started. It's important to not talk about money in the first interview. Maybe after you've been offered the job, maybe when you're getting closer to some negotiation, maybe when they've brought you back in for a second or third interview, but not for the very first interview. Don't lead with that. They want to know what you can do for them, and talking about money right away is not a good idea. The second thing is don't be negative about your previous job, your previous boss, your previous manager, or your previous company, or even your previous co-workers. Dissing somebody else is really bad form, and it is not going to be appreciated because what's going to stop you from doing that to them? Don't be negative. Even if you had a terrible experience, try and talk about what you learned from it rather than trashing the people or the company or the position that you had before. Third thing that you need to not do is talk too much or ramble or go on a great length about something when all you want to do is answer the question so they can ask you another one. If you go off on a tangent or a rant or ramble on and on and on, then they will lose interest, and you do not want them to lose interest in what you have to say. So be careful about rambling or saying too much. If they want to ask you more about it, they'll say, "Tell us more." This next one might actually be true, but it's best not to talk about it. And that is that you are choosing the job because of the perks, because they allow flexible working situations, because of the location, because of the benefits that come with the job, because it is part-time or it is full-time or whatever. They would rather you choose the job because of the job itself, because of what you can bring to the company, what you can do in the role, what difference you can make. It's not about the perks and the benefits and the location and the hours. It might be, but that's not what they care about. So be careful about mentioning those things in the interview. The fifth thing never to say is "I don't know" when you're asked a question. If there is something that they ask you that you truly don't know about, you can say, "I would like to think about that and perhaps I can get back to you." Or, "I have not encountered that situation before, so I'm unable to answer." Whatever it is, explain it a little bit more. But just saying "I don't know" actually translates as "I don't care." Even if that's not true, that's how it lands. The sixth thing to avoid is irrelevant personal information. There is lots of time, if you get the job, to get personal and get to know people and build relationships. But they don't need to know all the ins and outs of your latest medical adventure or your personal relationships. If it's irrelevant, you don't need to mention it in a job interview. I have one more thing to tell you, and this is the one that I think is just yucky. And I hope you never do this because it's kind of arrogant, actually, even if you don't mean it that way. And that is to say, "It's on my resume." What that translates into is, "I can't be bothered to explain it all again. You should have read my resume," etc., etc. There might be people stepping into the interview who didn't have time to fully prepare because they were called in at the last minute. There are so many people off sick right now. Who knows who's subbing in for who? Maybe they have read it, but they want to hear it from you. Maybe they would like you to explain it more fully. So using that sentence, "It's on my resume," is just don't ever do it. If you are interested in learning the STAR method or some of the ways to answer interview questions that are best practices, I will click to both the STAR method video and the playlist for interview questions here. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing that. Give this video a like because that helps to get it out there, and that would be a great way to say thank you for the information. I hope that you have learned something, and I will see you in the next video. I was a podcaster for a number of years. I still am, but I'm not running my own. I'm working on another podcast at the moment with the Carbon Almanac Network. But my podcast under Careers by Jenn is still out there everywhere. You can listen to the almost 300 episodes over 10 years on career topics and communication if you're interested in that. But Some of the things that were very, very challenging that I found were the times when I had to interview somebody who wasn't really good at being interviewed. Sometimes it was like that expression, pulling teeth. I don't know where that came from, but sometimes it was a very difficult experience because I'd ask a question, they'd give a one-word answer. I'd ask a question and it wouldn't flow, it wouldn't go anywhere. And so this is a situation that can happen in job interviews too. And so it's important really to practice the interview questions in advance so that you can answer them more fully. One-word answers don't really suffice, so it's important that you are able to flesh out your answers and give back a little bit when the people ask you. So practice the sort of common interview questions that you think that you might get asked. There will always be some curveballs, but practice in advance so that you aren't like the stilted people that occasionally, very occasionally, thankfully, I would get in the podcast that I would have to almost drag things out of. It was always a harrowing experience when I wasn't able to just have a conversation. So try having just a conversation. It'll go so much better, and the interviewer, the hiring manager, whoever you're talking to will have a better sense of you if you can just let the conversation flow, even if it's not your thing and it's not comfortable for you. That's why you have to practice.